August 29th, 2019, Board of Directors of the Costa Mesa Sanitary District. Please stand and follow me in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bob?
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Roll call, please.
President James Farragut.
Present.
Vice President Robert Uter.
Here.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer. Present. Director Michael Schaefer.
Here.
Director Arthur Perry.
Here. Do we have any late communication?
Yes, Mr. President, you did receive one from Mr. Jim Mosier, which is a copy of those communications that is before you. Okay, so District Council will comment on Mr. Mosier's comments when his items up later on the agenda.
Anytime the board wants me to, of course. I just thought that it would logically make more sense for considering the resolution.
Okay, great. Let's move on. Ceremonial matters and presentations.
None, Mr. President.
Okay. Public comments. I do have a card here from Sandra Jacobs, who is an executive with ISDOC as well as the Santa Margarita Water District, and she's very well thought of by this group.
Well, thank you. I couldn't ask for a better introduction. Yes, I am Sandra Jacobs, President of the Santa Margarita Water District. I'm also the President of your Independent Special Districts of Orange County. And I was here before you earlier this year, asking for your gracious support in my race for the voting seat for LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission. It was a very hard-fought race up until the very last day that the ballots were due. I had truly thought we were in a tie, 13-13, because one special district did not submit their paperwork, so it was 26 special districts in voting rather than 27. And unfortunately, there was one district. It was actually a South County district. We had counted Capo Bay, CSD, that apparently flipped, and of course the result was I did not win. A competitor won. It was, and I really wanted to come here tonight to formally thank you as a board and all of your staff for all of the hard work. You all worked very hard on my behalf, and I so appreciate it. I mean, right down to the phone calls, just talking with me, your support. I couldn't ask for a better group of people to support me. I really thank you, and I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. You really kept me going because it was hard. There were a lot of character issues that were thrown at you that I really did not expect, and you know, thank you for coming to those meetings, Director Uten, and thank you, Director Schaefer and Fairman, Terry, and of course, Director Schaefer. You all were right there with me along the way, and I appreciate your vote and your support of me during that race. As you know, if Charlie Wilson hadn't resigned, he would have been up for re-election in June of 2020. So that same seat will be open again in June of 2020. And I think it's important that we still have the type of representation on LAFCO, voting representation that we need. And so you might see me again as we approach and move into 2020 for that particular race. But again, I'm really here just to thank you and all of your staff formally for all of your help. And if there's anything I can do, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you.
I think you
I have a
said,
question.
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay, when you vote for the seat, what about the alternate seat? Is that up for election also?
The alternate seat is not up until 2022 now. And, you know, that was a really hard for me when I went before El Toro Water District because Kathleen Freshley serves on that board. And while her person that she was running with, Director Fissler, didn't vote for her for whatever reason, I didn't vote for her either. And I had to stand up in front of her and admit that that was one of the hardest choices I had. Because had I won, I had a perfectly good alternate who would have kept the seat. So I did not vote for an alternate, and now that she has officially won, she does not have to run until 2022. So in June, it will only be the voting seat that will be up.
I appreciate that. I didn't know. That's good.
Jim, I have
you know, Mike,
elections go the way that the voters go, and voters generally get what they deserve. I just would publicly state that the county lost an opportunity to have you represent us, and I hope you do throw your hat in for 2020. You have my support. You always will. You represent special districts at a level of class that we lack across this county. So thank you for the courage, and thank you for doing what you did in that fight, because you really showed your true colors. And I know I certainly, and I'm sure the rest of the world appreciate your efforts.
any other comments? Sandra, thank you for joining us this evening. We appreciate it. Are there any other public comments? Not, I would accept the motion to accept the, did you make the motion?
No.
What?
Just don't wait for it.
You don't want to speak at all. He's going to
No,
speak later.
no, I know that. Okay, consent calendar, I entertain a motion for the approval.
I have a question, I'd like to ask Scott. Just ask a question on Michael Delay. He did that for CRR for annual performance review.
You're talking under item number 14, election consent?
Oh, is that 14?
Is that the one?
Oh, yeah, number 14.
Yes.
And what was resolved at, that performance review?
We will bring those results back to you in
December.
December.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. That was my question.
Is that a study session item you're bringing back to us?
Yes.
That was my question.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing. General Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item number 1 is the Citizens Advisory Committee's overview of their meeting on September 18th. Just available to answer any questions.
Any questions of Scott?
Just attendance-wise, how did that go, that meeting?
As far as anyone for the CEC, the Citizens Advisory Committee?
Yes.
I believe there was just one absentee.
Because in the past, we've been a few more than one absent.
I have a question, Jim, real quick.
Yeah, Mike.
Two things, Scott. Is Mr. Graham still not able to attend meetings?
Correct.
Do we need to, is the CAC looked at replacing Mr.
Yes,
Graham?
we're in that process.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question I had is, and I brought this up before, the CAC folks under their obligations, are supposed to come to how many board meetings a year?
I believe one.
There's none here. I can't recall the last time a CAC member was at our regular board meeting, so I think Chair Carey needs to really emphasize to them that they're not meeting, the most of them are not meeting their obligations to attend these board meetings.
Sure.
And I think it's important that they're here because they are supposed to be advising us, and they don't see how we operate. And I think they need to be here.
Either that or change the policy.
Or change the policy if we want.
Also on the policy, do we say 3 meetings in a row missed and you're out?
I don't know, I have to review that
Because
again.
I would think that we should do something like that to kind of back ourselves up.
Okay, any other comments on that? Let's move along to item 2, receive and file 215, 220, strategic plan, quarterly update.
Yes, again, Mr. President, Board Director, this is a standard report that we provide to the board quarterly, so any questions you may have over questions.
Any questions?
Scott, I forget when we start and stop it. I think we do a strategic plan pretty soon.
Yes, we have in the budget, we're going to start that process next year in 2020. So prior to myself, I'll facilitate some more workshops with staff and with the board, and we will develop another strategic plan for the next 5 years.
Okay, there's several items in there, you date back to 2016.
Correct.
Been completed, so that was in the last
Correct.
round of strategic planning since we do it about every 5 years.
Yes.
Is this one a 3-year?
No, 5, we're in our 5th year right now, so 5th year of 5 year
5-year
plan.
this time?
My question is this going to be an internal thing that we do ourselves with the staff? Or are we going to go outside for assistance?
You know, it's sort of up to you. I believe we can do it internally, like I did last time. I think I can facilitate the workshop, so I don't believe we need to hire a consultant.
One other item,
Bob?
it was noted, and I think it's in the policy, there were quite a few SSOs, I think up to 6, which is considerably more than we've ever had. So I would like to see that as a study session item.
The study session is why we have that many SSOs.
Yeah, I mean, it says in there were 3 for Greece and 1 for this and 1 for that. I think we need to ask why, so we get down to the point of figuring out how to get that number back down to what it's been historically.
Sure.
Was one at Denny's by any chance?
Excuse me?
Was one at Denny's by any chance?
No, because that is private access.
That'd be private.
Oh, okay. Jim, I got a quick.
Yeah, Mike.
Scott, I know you just recently did your EOC training with staff, last week? Could we have just a brief update at the next study session on how that went and
Sure.
what you covered?
Okay, any other questions? Move along to item 3, performance measurement program update report, January through September of 2019.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our quarterly report on our performance measurement program. As mentioned in your staff report, there's a few measures I just wanted to highlight. One of them was already mentioned by Vice President Uten, that we unfortunately we have experienced an increase in sanitary sewer spills higher than normal. So we will bring back a report to the board on what caused those spills and how we can, what strategies we're using to ensure that this doesn't happen again. The other item, other measure I did want to mention is the solid waste disposal rate per person, which is calculated by CalRecycle, the regulatory agencies that oversees our solid waste diversion, or at least oversees the cities. The city's disposal rate did increase from 4.8 pounds in 2017 to 5.4 pounds in 2018. And so, as I said in the staff report, at first I thought maybe it's because of the increased population. but according to Cal Recycle, the population actually decreased. So I just don't have an answer why the disposal rate increased. We have to get a copy of their reports and kind of dissect it and find out what was the cost, but I did want to bring that to your attention. The good news, though, it still meets state mandates. It's well below state mandates. The goal was to be less than 8.4 pounds per person, so it's still meeting the mandate. That's good. And then the third measure I'm very pleased to report to you is that one of our measures is to engage in employees' morale and the level of expectations of the organization. And I'm pleased to say that this year, 86% of employees indicated the district is a better organization than it was a year ago, compared to 65%. So myself and the leadership team has been working collaboratively and very hard to create a culture based on trust and cooperation, and we're starting to see the fruit of those endeavors. So I'm very pleased with where we're going on that measure, and I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
All right, back to the previous announcement about the city's 5.8. Should that be on that we can discuss at the liaison meeting in November or not? Do you think we should?
I don't think they're not going to do it.
I don't think, should we make them aware, is what I'm saying. I'm just asking you.
Not at this point. I don't think, I'm just, to be honest,
Time's not right.
yeah, correct.
You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but last year, we didn't have any, did we?
No, you're thinking of 2017, we had 0 SSOs. And we had 2 last
Yeah,
year.
we
usually don't.
we batted 1,000 that one year.
Yeah, that was the first time we had 0 spills in the history of the organization, but this year is kind of an anomaly. We've never had this many before. So we'll bring back a report and explain.
We do separate the private from the public.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Okay, any other questions? Carryover appropriations and carryover encumbrances from fiscal 2018.
Thank you, Mr. President. Kevin Schreiber will give this report.
Good evening, Mr. President and Board of Directors. In front of you is the carryover appropriations and carryover encumbrances from fiscal year. There's no mic, I'll speak louder.
That's on our agenda for our audio, that's why you can't hear it.
I was just reminding you.
Nice setup, General Manager.
Yes.
In front of you is the carryover appropriation and carryover encumbrances from fiscal year 2018, 2019 to fiscal year 2019, 2020. All appropriation lapse at the end of each fiscal year. Therefore, it is necessary to request that certain unspent appropriations for goods and services to be carried over into the subsequent fiscal year. The carryover appropriations represent budgeted fiscal year 2018-2019 appropriations for goods and services that were not expended as of June 30th, 2019. But were expected to be expended in the fiscal year 2019-2020. Encumbrances represent purchase orders issued for goods and services which were not received or completed during the prior fiscal year by June 30th, 2019, but are expected to be received or completed in the subsequent fiscal year. Staff recommends that the Board of Directors approve the reappropriations of funds in the fiscal year 2019-2020 for the carryover items from the prior fiscal year as detailed in attachment A and B.
Move approval.
Second. Question?
Questions?
Caitlin, under the professional services, the public relations for the solid waste fund, do the public relations under the wastewater fund, did we just expend everything so there's no carryover? Is that, or do we even have a category in wastewater for public relations?
We do.
don't worry about digging through that tonight. That question, if I wanted to, should have gotten to you earlier. I just happened to notice that we're carrying it over under solid waste, and there was no carryover at all on wastewater, so I was just curious. You can get back to us.
I can get back to you
That's fine.
on that detail, the detail of that 29,000.
And then part of that public relations expenditure and the things that we do we have a line item for what CR&R contributes? Is that part of that solid waste, or is this just all ours?
There's no CR&R in here,
Okay.
in this 29,000.
But we do have a line item for what CR&R contributes towards our public relations. Part of our contract, isn't it?
I think that'd be more educational.
Yeah, for
So
education.
instead of public, okay.
Yeah,
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, so it would be more educational than public relations.
right.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Move along to item 5, multifamily proposal update.
Oh, yeah, what's the, I'm sorry, what was the action on number 4?
I'll move, we move for approval.
Yeah, I didn't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We need to vote yet.
I was just teasing you.
So who's,
All those-
Bob made the motion, I made the second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Multifamily proposal update.
Thank you, Mr. President. Who's in the report?
Good evening, President Ferryman, members of the board. Per direction from the Board of Directors, staff prepared a solid waste collection services proposal for the city of Costa Mesa. In the proposal, staff identified 4 areas where CMSD can assist in enhancing solid waste collection services for the city. CMSD staff with the city staff in September, and city staff was very defensive and believed that CMSD was criticizing their service. City staff questioned how CMSD would be able to afford all the proposed services and proposed new employees. And they were concerned that rates would go up to cover these costs. The city made a clear point that enhancing services for residents was not a selling point and would only consider the proposal if there was a financial benefit to the city. At this time, there's a lot of unknowns because the number CMSD has for customers is very different than the number that the city has. So staff is recommending a study to be able to reapproach the city and be able to discuss cost and financial benefits. Staff is recommending that an outside consultant is hired to complete the feasibility study. The study would provide both CMSD and the city with an approximate cost for CMSD to take over the service and help identify if this is even a venture this district should continue to pursue. Staff estimates a study like this would cost about $40,000 to complete. However, before CMSD decides to conduct the study, staff recommends seeking city approval to perform the study and request their participation. Otherwise, the city may believe that the study is biased and it favors district. It is important to note that a study of $40,000 is not included in the budget, so we would need to appropriate funds from the solid waste fund balance to cover the cost of this study. Staff, I am available to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yeah, Mike.
Probably not a question as much as it'll be Director Schaefer's opinion. The city was defensive over the fact that we were trying to take over something they are doing.
Correct.
I don't know how to answer. Do they realize that in 2020 there's a mandate by the state of California to reach a certain amount of recycling, and by us helping them, they're the ones that are ultimately responsible for that?
Staff did bring that up, and they said that the city is looking into changing their code to make all the haulers that operate in the open market be liable for meeting those mandates. So if any hauler doesn't meet the mandates or roll out a program, then the hauler would be responsible and indemnify the city.
So in essence, they've asked the haulers to change what they're telling the city.
Right. So
Whether
in
they
order,
do it or not, sorry to interrupt, whether they do it or not, they want their haulers to tell them, yeah, we're reaching the goal.
right. So to
Whereas
continue,
we've got direct proof of what we're doing through our hauler.
correct.
And so the city says that increasing services is not a benefit or a selling point to the residents of Costa Mesa?
They said that overhead cost for the city to oversee the solid waste contract or the solid waste open market is very minimal. So there is no benefit to the city to let CMSD take over.
So unless the city makes money on it, I guess my point, sorry Bob, but why would we spend $40,000 to tell them something that they're gonna balk at anyway? That's just how
Yeah, I sort of feel the same way. I don't believe, unless the city decides that they'll chip in $20,000, to support this study, I still don't think I would recommend that we go forward with it. The city makes about $2 million a year by charging 17% to those haulers that they just add to the fee to their the commercial and industrial community. There's no way they're going to give that up, and I don't believe it's feasible for us to do it, without having some of that $2 million. I suggest that we set up a meeting, that staff set up a meeting with the city to see if they're at all interested in doing their share of this study. My suspicion is, I was going to say no way in hell, but they're not going to be convinced in any way, shape, or form. We think the sanitary district can offer some additional services. But there's no way the city's going to give up that $2 million in the revenue. It probably costs them a couple $100,000, maybe $50,000, $80,000 to have Mike Ballier do that report for them. And the city staff involved in this is a revolving door. Every year there's a new one, in that position because they're working their way up through the city. At least historically, that's what I've seen. I'm not supportive of this study at all, as you can probably understand.
I have a question. Does anybody know how many haulers the city has? At one time they had 15, but I don't know what it is now.
I believe it is 7 or 9 haulers that can collect dumpster service, and then they have 3 or 4 additional that can do rentals. Like if you're cleaning out your house or if you're doing construction work, those 3 or 5 yard bins, those are separate companies that are just focused on that construction or rental service. But I believe just for routes, it's either 7 or 9.
Because that's commercial.
That's commercial, that's for multifamilies and commercial properties.
Because, we have the same thing as far as someone close off their house. And you can, so we're almost like a competition thing.
So the city is contending that the people they contract with on the outside of us are going to comply with what the state's demanding. Is that kind of it?
Yes.
They'll
They'll
figure out a way
change
to
the language.
Well, they'll have to increase the fees that the people supposed to make have to pay to get to that.
Yeah.
They won't change the numbers, they'll just buy different services.
Same thing as far as I'm concerned. They're manipulating this to their benefit when we can show them we can do it.
Well, our numbers is 62%. So we haven't demonstrated that we can.
Well, I think if by taking on what they're responsible for, we're going to get a better percentage than what they're getting calculated, because we've been doing it. That's all.
I'm not sure about that because, the commercial always seems to outgun us, as far as
Yeah.
percentage goes.
Yeah, you're right.
And, but it's not that far off. It's real close.
The state is going to get relatively few entities that can meet that 75% number, and it's getting worse because of the commodity market.
Yeah.
I would say 2/3 of the existing jurisdictions don't even meet the 50% number. There's no way in hell they're just gonna rise up and meet the 75% number. And the state has not enforced on those jurisdictions that don't meet the 50% number. They're not going to be able to enforce this.
I wonder too whether with the new governor may have different priorities, like
Don't you think?
have the state burning. This 2020 deadline, I think, has a real good chance of being kicked out down the road for a couple of years. I really think that's going to
They
happen.
won't change it, but they won't do anything about it.
Either way.
Statement, Jim. Yeah, Mark. We talked about this for like 20 years ago. And we thought the franchise, we had one vendor working for the city, their franchise fee could be much more than $2 million. So that's what the approach we should take. We think that the city could make more money if they had one vendor doing this for the whole city. And that way it would be more than the $2 million, that's what we're looking at as money. So I think maybe we should pursue that, working with some different vendors to see what the possible franchise fee could be. I think that's the only way they're gonna change. We don't wanna invest $40,000 instead of we do. It's not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah, I just wonder if those haulers will give up those numbers. I think it'd be worthwhile going to other cities that have single haulers for their commercial, if there are, and see what they're paying. That's a great concept, I think, Art. If the city's so concerned about not making more money, and we show them a way to make more money.
We thought 20 years ago that they could get like $3 to $4 million on a franchise fee. And now they're only making $2 million after 20 years. And they used to have like $17, I heard they said, but now they're down to 9 or so. But
Well,
just a thought, maybe we could research that ourselves, just for a study session, to see if it's feasible for us to move forward.
Or I think 17 are permitted to do it, and they're only functioning.
Yeah, I'm talking about many years ago, they had a lot more.
Yeah.
They have all these trucks crisscrossing each other on the roads, that's one of the main things. I think if we can pursue it on that angle, just to see what other cities are doing.
Well, let's not forget, the council changes too. And
Yeah.
so their priorities change.
And I'm not sure they're aware of the discussion we had
That's
with
what
the
I mean.
workers.
But we need to have a course of action here and not just be talking to each other, you know? I mean, I think we ought to, if we're gonna do some kind of study, everybody, we need to take action on it or have it go away.
And so just put a hold on this, not approve the 40,000, and we can discuss it further.
Do I hear you
I
say?
agree on that.
Well, we have an ad hoc meeting,
Yeah, we have an ad hoc meeting that,
maybe we could discuss that
Yeah.
with our vendor, who's probably gonna be a little bit.
is that, are you on that committee? You?
Call mine.
Okay, good. Have you had a meeting about that yet? Is that?
Maybe that's what we need to do, Scott and Avila, is get that ad hoc with Bob and I and whoever the CAC members were, and let's talk about it. This thing about being defensive, we're all in this together. We need to, Jim's exactly right, President Raymond's right. We need a course of action, and if we're getting pushback from the staff because they got, city staff, because they got their feelings hurt, let's find some other city staff to talk to that aren't so thin-skinned.
Well, if you have a meeting, then maybe we can have it on a study session, the next study session.
Well, we let the ad hoc start it off, and then.
That's what I mean.
Give you a report on it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so we don't need to take action.
We've got worse.
We have an understanding.
Thanks to Vila for being thick-skinned.
Okay, item 6, no, is that right? Yeah,
Yes.
6, attending the Waste Expo Conference in New Orleans from May 4th to the 7th of 2020.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was requested by the Board of Directors to place this item on the agenda because there's some board members that expressed interest attending this conference. This conference is not in our budget, so that's why we're bringing it back to you today for your consideration. The Waste Expo Conference is one of the largest conferences in the country. In your staff report, as a bullet point to some of the discussion topics that we'll be talking in the 2020 conference. As President Ferry mentioned, it is in New Orleans next year. In the financial review, staff estimated for one person to attend this conference. That would include registration, 4 nights, hotel stay, airfare, transportation, meals, is $3,205. So if you wanted to send one person to this conference, please direct staff to bring this back and have you appropriate the funds. Or if you want more people to go, typically we have a staff person, usually 10, then we'll come back with the appropriate amount for your approval consideration.
Yeah, Nabila and I were in Las Vegas for the last one, and I think I've said this several times, but that was one of the better conferences from a weight standpoint. You know, I go to a lot of the ones that Swana does here. This one, it was unbelievable. I mean, even through my thick brain, the 4 days, the stuff I learned on organics and recycling and just waste and job, I think it's well worth. Unfortunately, it's in New Orleans, so.
Poor guy.
Yeah, but I think this is well worth any or all of us looking. It really is valuable.
Should we poll the board and see who's interested in going? I can't go, because that's the CIF.
Well, I think it's important to know that we can budget for one person.
I know, but we could, I know one, I think it'd be better to have two myself.
Honestly, I think we can find $3,000, more than $3,000 for more than one person to go. Again, a lot of these conferences, you walk away from and you think, maybe that wasn't such a good expense. I mean, we've all done it. This one last year, it was really good. I mean, it was. I could overplay this, but it was.
Maybe one of you take a bus or something. Does that work?
You have to leave a week early.
Well, I suggested Mike and Nabila go again.
Mike and
Nabila.
You know, again, I'm not trying to capture this. I think any of you would benefit tremendously from looking at this. So,
I just can't because of the dates, or I would consider. Is there any other board members?
I guess what I would like staff to do is potentially, you can't go, but there's still 4 of us that could go. So you're looking at $15,000 when you include a staff person, roughly. 5 times 3.
So do you want us to come back with the appropriation $15,000?
Just come back with the funding somewhat, if you can fit it into the budget. Well, if you can find that money.
I'm not interested in it.
So now we're down to 12.
I wouldn't go either.
I would,
And I would too.
but, you know, because I've been to that before, you know, and
So
not
now
to
you
the
just have
extent
to,
of
for
the one you
two
did.
board members possibly.
And at least one staff.
I think that we ought to decide on how many here, if we're serious about it, and,
That's what we leave it at that. I think 2 would be the max from the board.
yeah.
And then
And if
staff.
somebody
Yeah,
has,
staff.
one of the board members has an interest and one doesn't, then obviously we want to send the one who does.
Well, we learn a lot from
So you two?
recycling.
Anybody else?
Give it to me.
Well, it sounds like it's Arlene and Mike.
Yeah. Do we need to take action on that?
No, we have direction, thank you.
Okay. So you know what we're doing? Okay, let's move along. Next, we're going to move number 2 up to,
We're still number 7, Anthony said, this is the appropriation of funds for a boardroom audio visual system. So item number E7.
I move it.
how much is it?
We're talking almost $22,000.
Before we take a vote on it, can you tell us what happened?
Sure. So unfortunately, the audio system in this room, as you can tell, that's why we don't have the microphones here, just died on us. And unfortunately, the contractor that installed it was not very responsive. So we went to another direction and we contacted 4 legitimate, very qualified professionals that, in the audio business, and surprisingly, they all came back and saying, yeah, it's gonna cost around $20,000. So we went out and did a bid proposal, and got the lowest bid, and, unfortunately, they said that the system they installed really wasn't made appropriately for this room, and so that's why it's gonna cost over $20,000 for a public boardroom like this. And as you see, all the bids are pretty close, so we know these are good numbers. So unfortunately, we didn't budget this as an unanticipated expense, and we believe we need one, because when you go on video, it's very hard to hear staff or the board, or the public. So we think this is an expense that needs to be done.
So right now, the audio part of it being picked up by a camera?
Pretty much, or it is, yeah. It's very hard to hear.
Are we required to accept one of these quotes?
We are recommending, I think staff mentioned, it's actually not the low bid, it's the second, it's $21,881.62, which is not technically the low bid, it's the second low bid. And although it's not the lowest bid, Western Audio Visual Security proposed the highest quality equipment, including a digital signal processor with the most expansion capabilities. They are located in Orange County, allowing for a quick response time and ease any repair work is needed in the future. So that's why.
Are you authorized to purchase something?
Yes, I am, but I don't have the crew to appropriate money from contingency budgets for unfunded balance. So that's where you come in. We need your approval to appropriate money that I can sign the contract.
I would move the action.
I think it's very important. I mean, let's face it, we gotta hear what's going on, and the public needs to hear.
I mean, we tout our transparency, and if we're not being recorded right, our tout isn't very good.
Yeah.
Did you meet with these people yourself?
I did not, Gina.
Do I hear a second?
Yes.
Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now you're going to be able to hear us. Is that right?
Hopefully, yeah, and yes.
So these,
That might be a double-edged
these
sword.
still work?
Yes. No, they don't work right now.
What is, out of curiosity, what's the time frame on getting this done? I mean, is it gonna happen for months or?
No, end of the year, by the end of the year, maybe by your December meeting should be operational.
Maybe November?
We get
Hopefully.
we get a warranty with it?
Yes, it's a 1 year, it's 1 year warranty.
And you don't know when they're gonna start or when they're gonna?
I know, because Gina's the one that negotiated the contract, and I
Yeah.
don't know most of that, so,
Understand.
but I can't anticipate, I can't believe it's gonna take longer than after December.
Hmm.
Okay. Receive and, let's see, engineers, who are we here?
Mr. President, if I can make a request, item F2, President Pump Station Reconstruction recommendation for alternative 2.
Oh, yeah.
If
Okay.
we could move that to the general manager report, and if the board is okay with it, there are 2 recommendations. One is to direct the general manager to have the plans and specifications prepared in accordance with alternative 2 as outlined in the report. And so I was going to have Rob, our additional engineer, Rob Hamers, give you a brief description on alternative 2 and the result of the structural study that we performed. And because he's requesting additional funding for his designs, that's where I'll make that recommendation to the board. So if that's okay with the board, I'd like to have Rob first give us his presentation about the pump station, then I'll make my recommendation for increasing his fee to $90,900. So we'll have Rob do the presentation, if that's okay with the board.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Actually, at the end of the staff report, there's a PDF of the siting alternative that's the same as this. So keep, there you go. Okay, that's the same as this here. So I've stood in front of you a number of times with 4 of these options. This is option 2, where we decided that we would try to be cost effective and reuse the existing pump station concrete vault. So with the board's approval, we hired a structural engineer and he did analysis. We don't have plans, so we use GPR, ground penetrating radar, to go in the vault, run up and down the walls, and determine the amount of steel in each of the walls and floors and ceiling and the thickness, and then engineer the thicknesses with the type of steel, did a little core drilling, and found out that the vault itself was designed fine for when it was built. However, codes change. The code used to say soil put a pressure of 30 pounds per square foot on that wall. But today it's 60 pounds per square foot. Did the soil change? No, the code changed. So in order to have the existing vault be reused, we need to do a little structural enhancement. And can you go to the structural engineer's report? Now keep going. Just flash right through that. Page. Keep going. Okay, there are the walls. No, keep going. That's the walls through the GPR. Okay, keep going. Those are the walls. And, okay, here we go. Slow down. Okay, so this is the existing steel that they found in there. You can see they have number 4 bars, 12-inch center, et cetera, So that was the steel they found that was in there. And then the next slide, Diana, is going to be the added steel. So there'll be pretty much a fascia of another layer of concrete and steel on it, but then it would be just fine. So it would work well as the emergency storage vault, as you can see. And we did other cost-saving improvements, such as we reduced the footprint so that we're no longer in this gentleman's yard, who we were substantially in his yard last time with option 1. We're no longer in this slope over here. We're keeping ourselves in the flat area as it is right now. We did move the vaults out from under the overhead wires, which caused us to have to relocate our sewer main over here, but we had to do that. So we did all the prudent things we could do to keep the station as less costly as possible, but with the idea of a prefabricated wet well and precast vaults and all. And we do believe we can bring the project in closer to around 1.6 million, which we were in the 2.2 million range with option 1 last time we talked about it. So I do believe that this is the most cost-effective way we can design the station where it is with the least amount of impact on both neighbors and still satisfy our field crews to give them all the equipment they want. So that's the...
Very good. Yeah.
Good job.
Well, I have one question. The vault, the alternative was, that I favored, was the alternative in the cul-de-sac.
Win some, lose some.
The alternative in the,
In the cul-de-sac.
just me saying that made you nervous.
No,
the alternative in the cul-de-sac, and that required a brand new,
Emergency
storage vault.
Right.
And so, you know, we've saved a couple $100,000 in the project by being able to reuse this one.
Yes, the cost for emergency storage vault was at least $275,000. So the cost to do these structural improvements in here will be $60,000
Right.
or less.
So if we went back to the, probably I think it was $1.6 million cul-de-sac alternative and took off $275,000, or $270-some thousand, I think that would be the cheapest alternative now.
Correct. It is, it fits in here very nicely, and it satisfies the guys. We could still take out we put a meter vault in, it's the first one we would have, but other than that, we think we're okay here. And we are going to, even though we're going to structurally enhance that vault, we're not going to let cars drive over it. We're going to put bollards in front of it and protect it forever.
So people can walk around it.
Right. And we still have our access, our prescriptive right access right to the park.
I think that's an ingenious alternative. I think the cul-de-sac alternative now is probably the cheapest. And reusing this vault would just, you know, the sewer that goes out there now goes right into that vault.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to at least hear, I look for my paperwork on the four alternatives that we've looked at. But the cul-de-sac alternative was nip and tuck the cheapest, equal to this, and now it would be $200,000 less than this.
Well,
The residents did one day.
No, the residents did.
The CAC was for this alternative. This was their number one. And if there wasn't this one, then they wanted option 3, which was this, but with the prefab.
Okay, I'll go over my serenity prayer again.
Okay.
You know, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And you know, I'll go back and look for my paperwork on the four alternatives.
There were definitely 2 people who wanted cul-de-sac option, and that was the gentleman who lives next to this.
And me.
and another resident.
Yeah.
How many residents did we talk to?
There was
We did a workshop out in the street when it was raining this morning, and we had 2 people showed up, and then we sent out a survey to all the residents up and down that street, and after we looked what the count was, but didn't get not all the residents submitted the surveys back, but the ones that did, the majority did not want the compensation in the cul-de-sac.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I think they were afraid more of their park, their short-term
Well,
park.
the imposition, they were afraid of the imposition.
Yeah.
Well, and
This is going to be a 30-year process.
I must say, our staff had concerns with maintenance having the cul-de-sac, so they expressed some concerns. Because, you know, it's not a big area, we went bring all the trucks there, it's gonna take up parking, yeah, they had concerns with it as well.
The electrical panel.
Okay, I give up. I'm not, you know, I will, I've had the courage to bring the thing up. And I will accept the alternative if the board so chooses.
So that's what we have. This is probably the best solution, most cost effective, and we're doing our darndest to keep it that way.
So if the bids come in substantially over this, then I would hope that we would potentially revisit.
I'll be down at John Wayne with
Okay.
I had a question on the actual, we were talking about the increased amount of steel to get to the 60 pounds, right? And you mentioned that we put steel in, then put a fascia covering of
more concrete off over it.
Is that okay? I mean, to me, adding concrete to concrete sometimes is iffy.
We dowel in the steel, meaning drill a hole, put the steel in an inch or two, and then it sticks out and you pour the concrete and it goes in that hole, over that steel, and makes a wall, so it's tied together.
So you have concrete coming out from the old wall, plus you have, or not concrete,
Right,
you have steel coming out of the old wall and then steel going up and down the,
right.
okay, so sort of like redoing a pool.
Right. Well, you have steel in the existing wall, and we're just, they can structurally add more steel.
Okay.
Back then, those.
I know what happens when I put concrete over concrete.
Get screwed up.
It
yeah.
washes away.
Well, I think that we should not use contractor Schaefer's.
I will vote against that.
So now, do you go back to, after all this, and tell residents about what's going on? So they're aware of it, or?
That's a very good point. The board would need to take action to direct the general manager to implement this design, which we'll call it Alternative 2, as shown today. And then if he feels that's a prudent thing to do, that says it's going to be designed back there, that might not be a bad idea, to let the residents know.
Do I hear a motion?
So
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I understand.
So that's official. It's by President Spain. Thank you very much. Mr. President, we still need direction, on the second recommendation of the staff report, and that's going to be my recommendation to approve an engineering fee of $98,900 to Rob Hammer Associates to complete the designs. The reason why we're recommending that amount is because typically when we look at designs, we want it to be under 10%. Rob Hammer's proposal is 6.2%, well below industry standards of 10%, so that's why I'm recommending approval.
I move for approval.
second.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob, for your fine work.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We have two more items under, thank you for that, Scott. Two more items under engineers report. First is the project status report. If there's any questions on any of the projects.
I have a quick question. I don't remember seeing it in the project list, but as we get into the rainy season, every year we start thinking about I&I and manhole plugs and stuff like that. We have a pretty good grasp on.
We actually did the smoke testing of the Mendoza, half the Mendoza tributary area, and we're waiting for those results to come back. And it's also, we have quarterly meetings, and plugging and sealing is something we'll be discussing since we're getting to the rainy season.
Okay. Great.
I have two questions. We're doing we have some old ductile iron pipe where Lowe's made it necessary to use steel pipe instead of bitch pipe clay. And we're cleaning that out and then going to reline it. Is that the entire length of ductile iron pipe that we have in the system?
Phase 1 will be all the full-length sections where there's ductile iron pipe from manhole to manhole. Then the next phase will be where there's maybe 20 feet and it needs to be done. But wherever there's ductile iron pipe in the gravity system, it really needs to be looked at. So we've had the report done, it's part of the master plan, and it's already in the budget. So we're really ready to work on it.
So this is most of it?
Yes.
And the same thing with the sewer siphon evaluation, there's over 10 of them in this present contract. Is that the total number that we have?
Yes, we have 10 siphons, and we're going to analyze those since a lot of those were made from ductile iron pipe also.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you. One more item?
Let me ask, how do you CCTV a siphon?
It's,
Do you have to dewater it?
yes,
Okay, that was my question.
that's very tricky too. Item 3, into sewer main relocation. We relocated the sewer out from under the patios next to the building successfully without having any structural damage to the apartment complex. It was rough going because we went through an abandoned pool and ran into some pool shell and suspect soil. The project was great. It worked out perfectly. We found all the laterals, tied it all in. Everything's up and operating. The only thing we have left to do is to vacate the existing easement and have the owners grant a new easement over the alignment, which we're working on those documents right now, but that doesn't stop us from accepting the improvements because that's the contractor's work. So the project was a success, and I'm happy to say that we got to it before it collapsed our sewer. So the recommended action here is accept improvements, file notice of completion, and exonerate bonds.
I'll move the recommended 3 actions.
I'll second.
Questions? All those, Art?
Do they have any problem with the owners of the property?
I'm sorry?
Will we have any problems with the owners of the property?
No, we work with them every step of the way.
Okay.
They had their management person out there. They were out there, and we met once a week and had a lot of discussions, and were very favorable.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's go to the treasurer's report.
Thanks, Mr. President, board members. This is your quarterly review of your investment portfolio. Looking at the markets, the Dow today closed at 27,071. From the last time that we had spoke last quarter, that is down 70 points. The Treasury bill, let me back up. It's down 70 points from the last quarter. For the beginning of the year, the Dow is up a little more than 3,700. Looking at the Treasury bill rates, T-bill rate today closed at 1.59%, and from the beginning of the year, that's down over 1%. At the beginning of the year, the Treasury bill was trading at 2.60%. The Fed has cut interest rates 2 times so far this year, and they're meeting this week. There is anticipation that they will cut one again this week, but it's yet to be reported. As they cut interest rates, bond rates tend to go down, which means our portfolio tends to follow that, and it will go down. Equities tend to go up, and we're seeing that in those rates that I had described. The economists are kind of split over really what's going to be happening, whether they're going to cut or not. And they're really split on 2 factors. One, they say that there's been the sluggish global economy, and the U.S. trade war with China has hurt manufacturing and business investment. And so that's kind of tending toward that there'll probably be another cut as a result of that. On the other side, they say that job growth and consumer spending have slowed somewhat, but it remains solid. So the economists in that camp tend to say, well, there's probably not going to be a cut. So use your crystal ball and see what ends up happening. Bringing that down to our portfolio, as of September 30th, the portfolio was earning 1.841% on a duration of 1.5 years. We do have a little more than 40% of the portfolio matures within 6 months. So we're very liquid. There has been a lot of activity in the portfolio, especially this past month, and that's really due to the interest rates coming down and the bond rates coming down. And so we have a lot of securities in the portfolio that are callable securities, so we're starting to see those securities called whenever rates end up going down like that. So we had 2 farm credits that were called 2.23% and 3.22%. Both of those were 5-year investments. We reinvested those, one in a farm credit bank and one in a home loan bank, at about 1% less, so 2.1% in both of those. We did have one negotiable CD that had matured during September. That's really all I've got for this quarter. I'm available for any questions you may have. This is an action item, so when you're done with any comments or questions you have, you will need to take action on approving the report.
Any questions from Mark?
Just real quick, the political climate in Washington being what it is right now, I haven't noticed any big shifts or changes in any financial stuff. Do you anticipate, depending on, I guess, how far congressional action goes, that do you see anything related to that that's going to affect any of this federal stuff that we have? Crystal ball, am I asking you to look at a crystal ball?
Uncharted territory with that. Depending on what ends up happening, I don't know. It hasn't happened before. It'll be the first time.
Okay.
So you're talking about impeachment. So
well, I didn't want to use the I word, but I guess that's kind of.
So we don't know. It hasn't happened before. I don't know how it will play. Anticipate it could play havoc with markets, but don't know.
Well, it's happened before, but it was like 150 years ago. So I don't think anybody except Bob Wooten was around back then. So.
Hey. Move for approval for the investment report.
Second. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposed for board's consideration is a resolution memorializing the findings made during a hearing that was conducted over Denny's the request to install a grease interceptor. The board during that hearing found that SSOs did occur. The board had authority to order an interceptor, but instead of doing that at that point, decided to order that Denny's increase maintenance on the lateral so that hydro jetting occurs once per month instead of once every other month. So what staff has done is we brought back a resolution memorializing the board's findings. Before tonight's meeting, we did receive comments from Mr. Mosher. The comments are appreciated, they're well done, they're not legally required, so we think that the resolution is okay without them. If there's any particular comment that board members really like, we're fine with adopting any of the comments also.
Any questions or comments?
I would just leave it up to Scott and our lawyer to look at this and see if there's any adjustments.
We didn't
I haven't really had any chance to look at it that much.
We don't think there's any adjustments that have to be made to the resolution.
So we need to take action on this?
Yes.
I entertain a motion.
Move for approval
Second.
of resolution.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay. Anything else from the attorney?
No, Mr. President.
Can we ask the attorney questions at this point, Mr. President?
No, you can't.
I do have a question for Colin,
Okay.
if I might. I was reading today something about a council member in Newport Beach who lives on Little Island, or Little Balboa Island, and apparently he was not able to vote on a lot of infrastructure things that were happening because of the 50, Little Island's not that big, so he had to recuse himself from any decisions regarding, infrastructure things that are going on Little Island. So he went to the FPPC and asked for asked that he be able to vote on those things. And I don't know what the legal term for that is.
The FPPC can issue an opinion on when the potential conflict is real property. A elected can ask the FPPC for an opinion that a decision will have no financial impact on the property.
Okay, on his
property. Yes.
And they granted it to him. I'd never heard of that before, and I just wondered how common that was.
not that common. We used to have the 500-foot rule, which made everything relatively easy. And then they went from the 500-foot rule to essentially a donut rule that had a per se area where there was a conflict, and then outside that area you could get an opinion, and a lot of persons got opinions from realtors who said there was no 1 penny or no 1 cent rule, and the FPPC wasn't satisfied with that because the decisions were being made by private realtors, so they went to this new rule that says that they're going to take that job over. So essentially, you can still get the same opinion, you just can't go to a local realtor to get it, you have to go to somebody at the FPPC. That's actually the first time I've heard of it being used. I haven't had to request it yet, but I can see how Little Balboa Island would be a special case where it's such a small area. A board member who lives on that, with all the projects they're doing around, I can see how the FPPC might say, yeah, just because we do a sewer line somewhere or we fill some sand somewhere, it's not going to impact your house, even though it's on the same island, but it's still 500 or 600 feet away, 500 yards away.
Yeah, like I said, I'd never heard of that ever being done by the FPPC, so
It's new.
I appreciate it.
It's new. They changed the materiality standard for real property within the last 2 years. So the FPPC issuing these letters is new.
Okay. Thanks, Jim.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Let's move along to Orange County Sand District. I'd like to thank everybody who expressed their concern about my well-being in the last 3 weeks or so. I'm fine, and it was very gratifying to know that somebody gave a damn about some idiot like me. So at any rate, it did though prevent me from going to the Orange County Sanitation District meeting, so I can't give you a report. Bob? Bob up next.
Let's see, Mike and I were there,
And Scott, our visitors unit.
we, it was just something on the budget, something on the construction projects and their various successes for the year. They always have just like our district has, a lot going on and a lot of accomplishments. I have, at home, the brochure that they give out, and I meant to bring it. It went relatively quickly. Instead of 2 hours that the meeting was scheduled for, David got it over in less than an hour. Covered a lot of ground. Chairman Schauber spoke, Jim Herbert spoke, and they had a lot of little videos that were interesting that you can go on the website and see about their impressions and other things. And many of those videos are done in-house. And they did a very good job.
And they did, Chairman Schauber did, part of his speech, he did congratulate you on your 30 years and talked about what a mentor you were to him and what a good guy you were. So you were profoundly expressed at the meeting, and we're all proud of you.
WISDOC, let's see, several of us attended WISDOC. Art and I did. And Supervisor Bartlett, I think she's the chairman of the meeting this year, spoke on homelessness. A couple of interesting facts. She said that 50% of California has 10% of the population and 50% of the homeless population, which they also have 50% of the retired Iowans, so it sort of goes hand in hand. And then she gave a breakdown of what that population consisted of. She said that they had hired a homelessness czar, and gave a lot of plaudits to that lady, Susan, whatever her name is, for helping the county get through and see some outcomes. They need something like over 5,000 housing units, and they're on track to get up to 2,700 pretty quickly. Since you talked about a little bit about transportation and a few other topics, they're on the supervisor's mind right now.
She was one of the finest speakers I've ever heard. She did an excellent job. One of the things I got from that meeting was, and see if this is correct, Senator, there's going to be an emergency management position for someone in the water, wastewater area that they're looking for. I brought this for you, Scott, to take a look at, something you may want to consider. It's an agreement.
Kelly Hubbard, I think
we yeah, she went up to Santa Barbara.
This is about the operational area agreement that the county is revising. And so we've taken a look at the revisions, district council looked at the revisions. So we're waiting for the board of supervisors to approve it. Then all the jurisdictions in Orange County, all the cities, all the special districts have to take action. So we'll bring this back to you.
That bottom part of it, from what they were looking for somebody, a possible member of the board. It's some future date, but I thought something for you to consider.
Okay, thanks.
Arlene?
I didn't go to ISDOC because I was up in Sacramento, but I heard everything went well. I did have a chance to talk to the president of ISDOC, and of course, she was very positive on the amount of people that came and how everything went, so that was good. And aside from that, should I go right into CSDA?
Sure.
Okay. So on CSDA, we had a year-round report, which is a wrap-up of all the legislation that's going to be carried over. And so I have pages of that. If anyone's interested, and I'll take it out to the ISDOC meeting so they can see it. And actually, you know, I gotta say that our staff from CSDA, they do a bang-up job because they sit at the table at the Capitol and they're able to talk about these different items that come up, you know, with, and we have a great partnership with CSDA and with CRMA too. And it's really nice to see that kind of blend because it means a lot when you're up there to have the support of all these different partnerships. And then, let's see, aside from that, and if anyone wants to see this, you're welcome to. In October 24th, I went to, I was up there the 23rd, and on the 24th, we had a membership service meeting. And at that meeting, I just will read this and you can pencil in if you want to the dates. SDRMA has the Safety Claims Election Day on March 24th in Sacramento. And Special Districts Leadership Academy will be April 19th, 22 in San Diego. And Special District Legislation will be, and that's the legislation days that we have once a year. It'll be in Sacramento as always, and it'll be May 19th and 20th. That's always a good turnout. And GM Leadership Summit will be June 28th or 30th in Squaw Valley. That's something that our managers involved in. CSDA Annual Conference will be August 24th to 27th in Palm Desert. And it will be at, I believe it's the Marriott.
You don't hear very often, Palm Desert in August.
Well, let me tell you, to start with, I'm up there in Sacramento, and they're having a fit over this when this was read, because they're saying, we used to go south and north and south and north, and this time it's all the southerners that are getting all the different conferences and so forth. So it's just one of those things where people are upset because actually when it is, you know, what is it, August 24th to 27th. Well, that's gonna be hot, and they're really upset over that too. But this is a special kind of Marriott that has the gondoliers, you know, and gondolas, pardon me. And you go around, you can go to restaurants, and I'm trying to play it up, you know, with the, yeah, it's underwater, and it's very nice, and you never have to go out if you don't want to, because between this one and the next one I'll tell you about, professional development, we've got it fixed so everything will be right inside, and you don't have to go out.
Is the golf course got?
And there's no golf, there's no golf.
There will not be a golf tournament.
No. We don't want anyone passing out. And then Special Districts Leadership Academy will be September 27th to the 30th, which is at South Lake Tahoe. And then the Board Secretary and Clerk Conference will be October 25th, 27th in Monterey. That's what, you know, everyone loves Monterey, so the attendance is fantastic there. They've got 330 people signed up for that already with clerks, so it's fantastic. They got so many, but you know, it's the place too, where that makes it. Okay, that's that. Then the other one is Professional Development Committee that I went to. I chaired that, so I had something on this. And let's see, workshop. Well, this is interesting. I won't read you all these trends, but we went over all the trends that are going on from the year, I think it was October 14, and you know, it's amazing how CSDA has just really wound up getting so many memberships and so many people involved in all these workshops. And that's what I was, you know, I wrote down all the workshops, but I won't bother you with that right now. And the webinars. The webinars have been increased so much. Everybody's doing webinars because they love that feeling that you could fly. They could just do, and this next year we've got more webinars coming too from it. And then we went over the conference as far as evaluating how it was. And we opened it up to people that asked questions to, you know, did you like it? What did you like? What didn't you like? It was very interesting. So we went over all this to see what it was like as far as the turnout. And what else did we do? That was about it. Anyway, I managed somehow. It was supposed to go to 2, and I got it done before 1:30, so they were real happy with me. And that's about it.
Okay, Mike? We have our SDRMA board meeting, our last meeting of the year, next week, so I'll have a report for you next month. We have a new board member that will be seating in January. I think I've told you before, Ed Gray, who I've been on the SDRMA board with for some time, lost his re-election to the Chino Valley Fire Protection District. So we're going to miss Ed. But I will, it's funny, we have a letter that was addressed to me, from me. This is a letter from SDRMA. As board president, we send out these letters every year, and they addressed it to me as board president here. So apparently, I don't know, as board president for SDRMA, I don't know that I'm not the president here anymore. I'll get this corrected. But basically, the letter is congratulating. And I'm sure you do.
We can assure you you're not.
Yeah, I guarantee I'm not. I'm at the end of the diet. This letter is to formally acknowledge CMSD's governing body, management staff. The district had no paid property liability claims for program year 2018-19, so SDRMA board sends out a letter congratulating all of us. And actually, I don't think we had a lot to do with it, so staff, congratulations for not submitting any claims. It really does make a difference. And, keeps the discounts in place too, so
Yeah.
congratulations to all of them. That's it.
And also, the good part is too, if you go to any conferences that deal with SBRMA, we get credit for it, so that's important.
Discounts.
Does anybody have any other meetings that they attended that they need to be compensated for?
The Newport Mesa Schools Breakfast.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I went to that.
Yeah, we were there. It was well done. I mean, it's nice to see the kids participate, serving the meal and doing all this stuff, but I thought Dr. Navarro did a nice job. I know he's under a lot of flack from a lot of sources, but I thought the meeting was well done.
I just thought at the beginning though, they should have had let people come in know what was going on, that they had to buy and get your own food.
Yeah.
4 years ago, they brought it to our table.
Did they?
Everybody was waiting in the back, and it was starting already.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I thought somebody should have been monitoring them to the tables.
What was interesting too, that they took the whole Newport Mesa Unified School District and talked about them too. It wasn't just.
Well, they had all the schools there. They had all the
Yeah.
schools there participating, all
Right.
students.
But that, again, that's kind of meeting, that meeting, and I thought the OCSD, the Sanitation District Breakfast was really well done. I appreciate the effort and I forgot to get my bags of compost, so can you arrange for some compost for me?
Yeah, we can
It's 10 bags.
Oh,
Yeah, I need a lot.
My daughter's on that board, so maybe if you speak to me and we can work that out.
You know, I might add too, I thought that our state of the district, or
Right.
sanitary district, was so well done. I thought the staff did a super job, and our managers would be complimented on everything.
Yeah.
Everything went so well, and people just loved the idea that we opened
Had
up.
nothing to do with it. That was all.
I had nothing, it's all staff.
Did we get a
Jenna,
total number?
Angela, Diana.
We get a total number of people in attendance throughout the city.
I think I
It's under
have a
100,
floor.
like, you think.
Was parking a problem at all?
No.
Somebody complained about parking.
Anyway, it was nice having the vendors there and, you know, people being able to, you know, see our Vector truck, our brand new one. And
It's gigantic.
just everything, you know, about it was good.
It was so cool, we talked about the vacuum truck. It was so cool to see Joel. Joel is like a 12-year-old at Christmas with that truck.
I know.
And he was just so excited to show people his new vacuum truck. All of you guys, it was great. It was really a nice job.
Jim, I wanted to ask a question. I attended the Orange County State of the District Breakfast. Will they pay me as the alternate? Well, Orange County Sand District.
Yeah, we put in one.
Sure.
So I
As long as you
so
don't have
I'm taking out my expense
As
reimbursement.
long as you don't have over 6.
No, I'm talking about whether Orange County Sand District reimburses me, so I shouldn't charge the sanitary district for that meeting.
I would charge them first.
No. Okay, old business, new business. Any oral communications and director comments? I think we kind of covered that. We do have a closed session, and at this time, I'm going to put us in the closed session. And thanks for your attendance. If you belong, stay. If you don't, go.